The sun beat down on Bluffview Estates like it had a personal grudge, turning the annual Labor Day HOA picnic into a sweat-soaked spectacle of forced smiles and plastic flags. Every lawn was clipped to the exact 3-inch regulation. Karen Wallace, the HOA president, made sure of that. She patrolled the cul-de-sac in her starched polo shirt with the little embroidered gavel, clipboard in hand, ready to slap a $250 fine on anyone whose mailbox trim was half an inch off community standard. Neighbors called her Karen behind her back, but to her face it was always President Wallace, with that syrupy respect that tasted like expired lemonade. I stood at the edge of my parents' backyard, technically still my childhood home, though it felt more like neutral territory these days, nursing a lukewarm, sparkling water and watching the circus. My name is Piper Wallace, 34, and for 2 decades, I'd been the ghost in this neighborhood. The one Karen publicly scolded for disrupting community harmony because my sedan's faded paint didn't match the approved earth tone palette. The one who got cited last spring for leaving a single dog poop bag on the curb 2 minutes past the 5-minute pickup rule. The one everyone whispered about. Poor Piper, still renting that tiny place near the highway while her little brother Dylan lives in the corner lot mansion with the infinity pool. Dylan, golden boy, 6'2" of charm and 0 accountability. He stood by the patio table in a linen shirt that probably cost more than my first car, laughing that easy laugh that had once gotten him out of HOA citations and into debt. His new girlfriend Sierra clung to his arm like a life raft. Dad manned the grill, flipping burgers with the same worshipful vigor he reserved only for his son. Mom, President Karen herself, climbed onto the wooden deck like it was her personal stage. The chatter died. Even the kids stopped chasing the dog. Attention, everyone. Karen clapped, voice pitching up like a game show host. We all know Dylan has been working so hard on his business ventures. Well, hard work pays off, tell them. Ray, Dad wiped his hands, grinning ear to ear. Our boy just bought the big lot on the corner in Bluffview. Infinity pool. The works. All on his own. No help from us. Just pure talent. The neighborhood gasped right on cue. Bluffview Estates wasn't just any subdivision. It was the statement address. HOA fees here cost more than rent on my old apartment, and the rules were tighter than a corset. Karen swelled with pride. To Dylan, the perfect example of compliance and success. The chorus echoed. To Dylan, he took a mock bow, sweat beading on his temple despite the shade. His smile never reached his eyes. Then Karen's gaze swung to me, warmth evaporating into that familiar, pitying sneer. Piper, honey, did you hear? Your little brother bought a luxury home. And you're still well. Where are you living these days? That apartment complex near the highway. The yard went dead quiet. This was the ritual. Elevate Dylan. Bury Piper. Balance restored. I set my cup on the railing. The metal burned my palm. I stepped out of the shadows into the harsh Texas sun, voice steady as ice. I heard, Mom, and I'll be grand when he stops renting that house from me. 3 seconds of sizzling grill grease. Then Uncle Jerry chuckled nervously. Good one. Piper, it's not a joke, I said. No smile. Karen's face twisted. Don't be jealous. Piper, it's ugly. Why ruin everything with lies? I pulled out my phone, tapped 3 times, and turned the screen toward her. Dylan signed a lease 6 months ago. Owner, Juniper Slate Holdings, LLC. That's my company. I'm the sole proprietor. The digital lease glowed, his signature bold next to mine. Dylan froze like a deer in headlights. Sierra dropped his arm. Karen snatched the phone, eyes scanning desperately for forgery. Juniper Slate? Sounds like a hedge fund. You're a consultant. Piper, you don't own property in Bluffview. I own 3, I corrected softly. And Dylan lives in the most expensive one. Or he did. My cousin Mike started recording on his phone, expecting the crazy sister meltdown. I looked straight into the lens. Keep rolling. Mike. From this moment, everything is evidence. Karen's voice rose to a shriek. You're lying. But the vibration in my hand cut her off. An email from my property manager. Final notice filed today. Eviction complete. Court fees paid. Process server dispatched. I looked up. The entire neighborhood stared. Dylan's terror was pure. I spoke just loud enough for everyone to lean in. The eviction notice was filed with the county clerk 5 minutes ago. You have 72 hours to tell them the truth, all of it, or the court will speak for you. And unlike Dylan, court records don't lie. Karen thrust the phone back like it was radioactive. You're jealous because Dylan is successful and you're you. But her hands trembled. The metal tongs clattered to the concrete. Grease at the coals. A massive orange flare roared up, engulfing the burgers, licking the expensive grill hood. Flames danced exactly like the future of Dylan's dream mansion. To understand why I stood there watching the grill burn without blinking, you have to understand the architecture of this HOA family. Ray and Karen weren't cartoon villains locking me in the basement. They were simply people who only had enough spotlight for one child. And they decided early that the light looked better on Dylan. If life was a draft, I was the scribbled margin note erased before submission. Dylan was the gold leaf hardcover. I remember the day we moved into Bluffview Estates. I was 10, Dylan's 6. 2 bedrooms. One faced the backyard oak with morning sun and a walk-in closet. The other faced the street beside the rattling AC unit. I didn't ask. I carried my box of books into the small room. Karen led Dylan into the big one. Boys have energy, she said. He needs quiet. I was already the big sister who could handle the noise. By 16, the difference wasn't just square footage. It was financial. Dad handed me the keys to a rusted sedan leaking oil and said driving was a privilege I had earned. I got a diner job that smelled of fried onions. 2 years later, Dylan got a shiny new truck for safety. Karen cried happy tears. I stood on the porch with duct-taped mirrors on my sedan. It hurt less if they'd been cruel. Cruelty lets you hate. But they were nice. They asked about school while checking watches. They came to my graduation, but left early for Dylan's scrimmage. Soft, suffocating neglect. They loved me. I suppose. They were in love with Dylan. The only person who truly saw me was Maya Linton. We met in sophomore biology. One afternoon in her apartment kitchen, I cried about Dylan breaking my laptop and Karen refusing to make him pay. Maya slid a spiral notebook across the table. Write it down. Memory forgives. Paper doesn't. That was the birth of the spreadsheet. At first just dates, amounts, exact quotes. The $300 I lent Dylan for concert tickets he never repaid. The hours babysitting while Karen and Ray took anniversary trips. The college tuition they couldn't afford 2 weeks before buying Dylan a $1,200 drum set. While Dylan floated through his 20s on Dad's credit card, finding himself in Europe. I worked 3 jobs. Barista, receptionist, night inventory auditor. I lived on rice and beans. Drove the cracked engine sedan until it died. Wore thrift store clothes. Karen would shake her head. You work so hard. Piper. Shame you can't get ahead. Maybe find a husband. I never corrected her. By 23, my net worth hit $50,000. By 25, $100,000. I let them think I was broke. Safer that way. If they knew, Dylan would suddenly need it more. Then came Dylan's startup phase. Thanksgiving. He pitched an app connecting dog walkers with free walkers. 0 revenue model. Dad wrote a $20,000 check before Dylan finished speaking. We believe in you. Son, that $20,000 was exactly what I still owed on student loans. I bit my tongue and logged it in the new tab, Dylan Fund. Over years, the entries grew. $5,000 car repair, $3,000 lawyer, $10,000 bridge loan. I said nothing. I climbed at Cinder Private Strategies, from analyst to senior associate managing 8-figure portfolios. I learned shell companies, depreciation, leverage. My boss called it ice water in your veins. I called it survival. I met Graham Cole in the post office line. Logical, kind, zero drama. On our 4th date, I showed him the spreadsheets. He didn't flinch. He just pointed out my inflation projection was conservative. I fell in love right there. But even with Graham, I kept the family dynamic secret. One Sunday dinner after my promotion, I wore a new blazer. Karen glanced at it. Outlet Mall? Be careful with stitching. Then, Dylan's thinking about real estate. He has a knack for people. I stood there in my $1,000 jacket feeling like trash. That night, I stared in the mirror and realized they didn't hate me. They just didn't need me to shine. Hate implies I mattered. This was indifference. I stopped trying. I became exactly what they thought. Boring. Reliable. Broke Piper. And then I started looking for a house to buy. Not to live in, but an investment in Bluffview Estates. Something that screamed success. Something that would attract a tenant who cared more about image than substance. I wasn't planning revenge. Not consciously, but deep down I was building a stage. Then Dylan texted, "Hey sis, can you lend $50 for gas? Mom and Dad are tapped." I looked at my 7-figure portfolio and typed back, "Sorry, tight this month." I transferred another $2,000 into investments and smiled. The long game had begun. The housing market was chaos. Interest rates tangoed. For someone who'd hoarded cash like a nuclear squirrel, it smelled like opportunity. I found a foreclosure on the Ridge lot, glass and steel modern. 2 acres. Infinity pool dropping into the ravine. $850,000 steel. I didn't sign as Piper Wallace. I formed Juniper Slate Holdings LLC for $300. Used a Delaware registered agent. My name never appeared publicly. Firewall complete. I hired contractors. Open concept cavern. White quartz island big enough to land a plane. Floor to ceiling glass. Infinity pool with smartphone lights and sound system. Soulless perfection designed for Instagram. While renovations happened, I still drove my dying sedan to Sunday dinners. Sweating. Listening to Karen sigh about the economy. I never told her I'd just approved $15,000 Italian tile. I hired ironclad residential, ruthless managers. I wrote strict addendums. Max 2 adults. 10 p.m. Noise curfew. Any gathering over 10 people needed $500 deposit and written approval, plus mandatory 90-day high-res photo inspections. Karen at Ironclad raised an eyebrow. Pretty restrictive for luxury. I smiled. I don't want a tenant who wants a home. I want a tenant who wants a showroom. A week before listing, I took Maya to see it. She walked the open room, touched the quartz, stared at the pool. Holy cow. Piper. Then her face turned worried. This isn't an investment. This is a honeypot. You built this for Dylan. I didn't deny it. If he happens to want it, that's his choice. Maya sighed. Be careful. Walls this high sometimes forget doors. I called Ironclad one last time. Mandatory photos every 90 days. Time stamped. Digital paper trail. The house sat empty. Pristine. Armed. A lighthouse waiting for a ship to wreck. The application landed on a Tuesday afternoon while I cross-referenced trust distributions at Cinder. Automated alert from Ironclad. New applicant. 104 Ridgeview Lane. I clicked the PDF, expecting a tech executive. Instead, applicant 1, Dylan James Wallace. Applicant 2, Paige Elizabeth Harmon. My coffee cup froze midair. Dylan, the boy who once borrowed $50 for a goldfish, then sold the tank when it died. Applying to rent my house. I audited the file like $1 billion portfolio. Dylan listed himself as CEO of Wallace Ventures. $150,000 income. Wallace Ventures was a Gmail account and a leased laptop. Paige's section was pristine, 7 years pharma sales. 792 credit. Actual savings. She was the engine. He was the hood ornament. My mouse hovered over decline. So easy. But I clicked approve instead. I signed as Juniper Slate Holdings. Strict adherence required. No exceptions. 48 hours later, Dylan posted on neighborhood social media. Photo on my patio. Sunset behind the infinity pool. Champagne glass. Caption: big moves only. Finally secured the dream spot in Bluffview. Hard work pays off. New home blessed. CEO life. Secured. Clever wording. Everyone assumed deed transfer. Comments flooded. Congrats. Bro, housewarming party win. Karen, President Karen, reposted it with hearts. So proud of my son living the Bluffview standard. She'd waive his first 2 noise complaints because family. Meanwhile, I've been fined $300 last month for my flag being 1 inch too large. The violations started small. First 90-day inspection. Lawn turning yellow. Sprinklers off. Water bill unpaid. Pool already cloudy. Inside, scuff marks. Missing coasters. Light fixture dangling. I printed every photo. Hole punched. Labeled Eviction Exhibit A. Dylan hosted unapproved gatherings. Noise monitor spiked past curfew. Karen sent him a polite, just a reminder email. To me, she'd have mailed certified fines. Paige paid every check for 4 months. Then came the 4th of July. Noise alert at 9 p.m. Then police dispatch, domestic disturbance. Next morning, Paige packed her car and peeled out. Dylan stood in swim trunks holding a beer. Alone. The bankroll left the building. I emailed Ironclad. Future rent must come from named tenants only. No third-party checks. Dylan tried the joint account. Insufficient funds. Grace period ended. Late fees posted. He sent a creative writing email about seed round wires tied up in compliance. Ironclad replied with the template. Late fees automatic. Remit immediately. He scraped together a cashier's check 6 days late. Probably sold furniture. August arrived. No payment. 5 days past due. Voicemail full. I instructed. Send 3-day notice to vacate via certified mail and doorpost. No extensions. The legal machine started grinding. Second inspection photos arrived. Lawn dead straw. Pool a green swamp. Beer cans and skimmers. Living room. Dark rings on hardwood. Walls scuffed. Inflatable gaming chair in the empty space where my white furniture used to be. Master bedroom carpet stained. Kitchen ant infestation. I printed everything. Binder grew heavy. Karen called me in panic. Dylan says the landlord is harassing him over a clerical error. Dubai investors. Pool pump broke and they refuse to fix it. He's being forced out so they can sell to a developer. The inversion was almost artistic. He broke the pump. He didn't pay. Yet he was the martyr. Did he pay the rent? Mom. Silence. He tried, but the wire. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I can't call his landlord. I'm not on the lease. You never help him, she exploded. You're so cold. Piper. Sometimes I wonder where you came from. The words used to cut. Now they calcified. I hung up and emailed Ironclad. Prepare eviction filing for Monday. Then a new character entered. Sierra. Red-haired influencer. Life coach. 4,000 followers. Posted filtered photos of the green pool looking teal and moody. Caption. Manifesting abundance with my love, Dylan Wallace. This house is a whole vibe. Can't wait to fill it with good energy. She filmed a story. We're thinking massive Labor Day barbecue. Investors. Family. Everyone. Show the Wallace brand expanding. Dylan's voice and background. Yeah, babe. Mom keeps asking when we'll celebrate the house properly. Labor Day. The exact day the eviction suit would be active. He was inviting the audience to the theater right before the roof collapsed. I called Karen at Ironclad. Change of plans. File Monday at 8 a.m. Sharp. But tell the process server the tenant will definitely be at 412 Maple Drive in Round Rock between 1 and 3 p.m. But that's a private residence. It's his parents' house. There'll be a party. Gate open. Serving at a family party is aggressive. He's trying to swindle my father out of $40,000 tomorrow morning. Aggressive is the only option left. I hung up. My hands didn't shake. Adrenaline felt clean. Sunday night, Dylan texted, "Hey, big sis. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Mom's making potato salad. Bring your checkbook, kidding kind of. Seriously, be there when I make the announcement. Big day for the family." I replied, "I'll be there. And I'll bring a gift." I spent the night assembling it. Heavy black presentation folder. Inside, lease, non-payment notice, certified mail tracking, time-stamped ruined photos, copy of the filed eviction petition, thin but heavy as a guillotine. Monday morning, the Texas sky was relentless blue. I dressed in linen, sharp but barbecue appropriate. Graham kissed me. "You're the one with the leverage." I drove to Round Rock in silence. Parked 3 houses down under a mesquite tree. 1:18 p.m. Process server due at 1:30. 12 minutes. I gripped the folder, stepped into the heat. Laughter rolled down the street. The gate clicked shut behind me. Nobody heard over the country music and roaring conversation. The backyard was red, white, and blue explosion. Banner, "Congratulations." Homeowner, in glitter. Karen bustled out with potato salad. When she saw me, her face lit with triumphant gleam. Piper, just in time for the toast. Music cut. Crowd formed semicircle. Karen wrapped her arm around Dylan. "We all know it hasn't been easy, but seeing my son about to close on his own estate in Bluffview, faith pays off. No handouts, just vision. And tomorrow when we help with closing costs, we do it with joy, because it's an investment in legacy." Approval murmurs. Then the sneer turned to me. "And Piper, I hope this inspires you. I know you're still renting that little apartment. Maybe if you took risks like Dylan, you'd have something to show for your life. When are you going to finally get it together?" The public humiliation landed exactly as planned. I walked to center, set my tea down. "I will have a home," I said, voice clear, "when he stops renting that house from me." 2 seconds of sizzling silence. Karen let out a brittle laugh. "What? Don't make jokes. Piper, it's pathetic." I lifted the black folder. "This is the residential lease for 104 Ridgeview Lane, dated February 1st. Landlord, Juniper Slate Holdings, LLC. That's me." I pressed the document into Dad's hand. "Read the signature." "Dad," Ray squinted. "Juniper Slate. My company, I finished. I bought that house 18 months ago. Renovated it. Staged it. 6 months ago, Dylan applied to rent it. I tossed the application onto the table. Sierra saw Paige's name. The real income numbers. Her face drained. Karen stammered. "Rent? No, he's buying it. I am the corporation. Mom. And he isn't buying anything. He's being evicted." The word landed like a slap. Uncle Jerry lowered his beer. Dylan's face went blotchy red. "She's lying. She set me up." I pulled the green pool photo. "Did I trap you into destroying the pool pump? Did I trap you into skipping rent for 60 days? Did I trap you into lying about a closing date so you could steal $40,000 from Dad's retirement tomorrow?" Karen stepped between us, shielding her son. "You did this? You let him live there and charge him rent? Your own brother?" "Fair market value," I said, "which he didn't pay." "You're evil," Karen sobbed, mascara running. "You ruined this family. Why couldn't you just help him?" I looked at the woman who'd spent my life polishing Dylan's pedestal while fining me for flag size. "What family? The one where I hide my success so Dylan doesn't feel bad? The one where I'm the bank and the punching bag? That's not a family. That's a hostage situation," Sierra whispered. "My name is in these texts, the noise complaints. The police visit. You said neighbors were jealous. You said you owned it." Dylan reached for her. Babe, it's complicated. Just then the heavy car door slammed on the street. Gate latch clicked. Every head turned. A large man in tactical vest and gray uniform walked in, badge glinting, papers in hand. He scanned the yard and locked on Dylan. Dylan James Wallace? Voice flat, loud enough for the next county. Dylan froze. I'm a private process server. Sir, I have a citation from the Justice of the Peace. You are being sued for eviction and back rent totaling $11,400. He dropped the papers at Dylan's feet. You have been served. Kurt nodded to me. Gate clicked shut behind him. Silence absolute. Papers white against yellow grass. Wind lifted the top page. Eviction petition. Dylan whimpered. Dad, it's a mistake. I can fix it. Just need the check tomorrow. If I pay her, it goes away. Right? Ray looked at the lease still in his hand, then at the signature. He dropped the paper and turned back to the grill without a word, staring into the ash. Karen wailed, clutching her chest. I closed the folder. It's over. Dylan, court date's the 12th. Don't be late. I walked toward the gate. Eyes burned into my back, hateful, confused. Karen screamed my name. Sierra sobbed. I didn't stop. In the car, the screaming muffled. Hands steady. Heart calm. I started the engine and pulled away. The barbecue was over. Cleanup had begun. The hearing lasted 12 minutes in a fluorescent room that smelled of floor wax. No drama. Just facts. Judge Harrison flipped pages. Did you pay July rent? Mr. Wallace. Dylan stammered about wires. August. He offered payment plans. My attorney placed the ledger. Arrears totaling 11,400. Notices served per Texas code. Judge signed. Judgment for plaintiff. Writ of possession granted. 24 hours to vacate voluntarily or constable assists. Gavel thud. Dylan shrieked about furniture. Judge suggested a moving truck. Next case. 2 days later, the constable drilled the new locks while Dylan barricaded inside. Sierra packed her sedan. At 11 a.m., Karen at Ironclad called. He's refusing to leave the driveway. Demanding to speak to the owner. Claims verbal extension. I attached the noise monitor logs and Instagram photos of the keg stand party 2 days after the notice. Show these to the constable. Lease violations during eviction period. Nullifies any good faith claim. Karen's voice. While this shuts the door completely. Change the side gate tumblers too. At 5 p.m., I drove back to the house. Street quiet. Trash bags on curb. Broken champagne flutes. Deflated pool noodles. New brush nickel lock gleamed. Key turned smooth. Inside, empty cavern. Industrial cleaner and stale cigar smoke. Pool still green. I stood in the center, closed my eyes, breathed the silence. It had cost me my family, my reputation, 40,000 in damages. But I had bought the truth. I set the alarm, locked the door, and walked out. The truth doesn't need screaming. It echoes all by itself. Weeks later, the neighborhood Facebook group was strangely quiet. No more Dylan's dream home updates. Karen's weekly rule reminders lost their smug tone. She still patrolled with her clipboard, but the gavel embroidery looked a little faded. Residents who once nodded along to her community standards now side-eyed her at the mailbox. The power that once felt ironclad had cracks, visible, satisfying cracks. I received one final text from Karen. You are dead to us. You watched your brother get thrown onto the street like a dog and did nothing. You have no heart. Don't call. Don't come by. I only have one child now. I screenshot it. Saved it in the archive folder labeled Family Correspondence, Final, and turned off my phone. The knife hit armor. No blood. Graham and I spent the next weekend restoring the house. New sod rolled out emerald again. Pool chemicals turned the swamp back to glass. The quartz island buff clean. By Sunday, the infinity edge once more vanished into the horizon like it was meant to. I stood on the patio at sunset, Graham's arm around me, and for the first time the house felt like mine. Not a trap, not a stage, just a quiet victory. Maya came by with champagne, real this time. We toasted on the same patio Dylan once posed on. You built a wall, she said, but you left yourself a door after all. I smiled. Paper doors. They don't lie. Across the street, a new for sale sign went up on Karen's own house. Word spread she was downsizing for health reasons. The neighborhood knew better. The Golden Boys eviction had cost her more than just face. It cost her the illusion of control. Every fine she'd ever issued now carried a question mark. Every waived rule for Dylan now looked like favoritism exposed. The HOA meetings grew shorter. Fewer citations. People started pushing back on the 3-inch grass rule. The Karen era was cracking. Dylan moved into a studio near the highway, the same complex he once mocked me for living near. Last I heard, Sierra changed her relationship status to single and blocked him on everything. Paige, I learned later, kept driving, new city, new job, new life. Good for her. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up for the first time in years. Sat in the back row. Karen's eyes flicked to me once, then away. When the agenda reached new business, someone raised the flag size rule. Karen started her usual lecture about harmony. A quiet voice from the front. Uncle Jerry interrupted, maybe we should review all the waivers given last year. Fairness, right? Murmurs of agreement. Karen's face flushed the same blotchy red Dylan's had at the barbecue. She stammered something about past discretion and quickly moved to adjourn. The gavel in her hand looked small. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there with my folder, now thinner, just a final court order, resting on my lap. Paper. Quiet. Unforgiving. Later that night, Graham and I sat on our own patio, my real patio, in my real home I'd finally moved into after the dust settled. The infinity pool reflected stars. No parties. No lies. Just the soft hum of the filter and the distant sound of a lawnmower obeying the 3-inch rule because the owner chose to, not because Karen demanded it. I raised my glass to the dark hills. To receipts, I whispered. Graham clinked his against mine. To boundaries. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a new resident was probably unpacking boxes, wondering why everyone seemed a little more polite lately. They'd learn. The rules were still there. But the queen who once wielded them like a weapon had lost her crown in front of the whole kingdom. And the quiet sister, who everyone thought was broke, she owned the castle. The burning had finally begun, and this time the flames only took what deserved to burn. Thank you for listening to this HOA Karen story. If you're dealing with your own neighborhood tyrant, ridiculous fines, or golden boy neighbor who thinks the rules don't apply, drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. Maybe your paperwork is the next weapon. Subscribe for more real HOA drama, Karen exposures, and that sweet justice when a bully finally gets served. Hit like if you felt that satisfying click when the process server walked in. Stay strong. Keep your receipts. The truth always echoes.